Welcome to Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerantz. Thank you for joining us. Our guest is Phyllis Cheng. She is the director of California's Fair Employment and Housing Department. Did I say it correctly?
Department of Fair Employment and Housing.
There you
Close
have
enough.
it. Phyllis, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm particularly glad you're here because we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Fair Employment and Housing Act here in California. What does that mean?
The California Fair Employment and Housing Act, or FEHA, is the Civil Rights Act for our state. And really, among all states, it's the strongest civil rights law in our nation. It covers both employment and housing and many, many bases.
Why don't we do this? Let's talk about employment and then housing.
Yes.
So the act is 50 years old. 51 years ago, what was it like for employees without this act?
51 years ago, there was no protection for employees who were discriminated on the basis of race, sex, national origin, age, certainly not sexual orientation, family, familial status, or perception of some of these bases and more.
So now, as a result of the act, if you fall into any of those classes, you cannot be terminated because of your membership in those classes.
Absolutely. Not only can you not be terminated, but you cannot be discriminated in applying for a job or taking benefits for a job or a leave because of those bases.
And in California, gays and lesbians are protected, which is different than most states. Is that accurate?
That's correct, and also under federal law. Sexual orientation discrimination is protected under our Act, and also sexual identity is protected under the Act, and perception thereof.
So is that transgenders or?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, let's move to housing. As I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a lawyer. I don't practice much anymore. And when I was in law school, I was stunned to learn about a practice called racial steering. Tell us what that is and how was it practiced 51 years ago?
Well, 51 years ago, basically, loans were given out to based on redlining, whether or not certain neighborhoods were white or black or other minority groups. And today that is prohibited under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. Also rental policies, other types of protections related to housing.
But I understand that 51 years ago and beyond, in a deed, it could say something like you cannot sell your house to a member of the Hebrew race, to a Negro, and those were upheld.
Yes, today actually that would be prohibited, although some of that language is still in some very, very old deeds if you have not transferred that deed, and they can no longer be abide by. And
we know that one of the most famous holders of one of those deeds was Chief Justice William Rehnquist, who is no longer with us, but he got a lot of flack for that. So 50 years later, talk to us about how the Act has lived, thrived, and survived.
50 years later, now anyone applying for a job cannot be discriminated on the basis of race, national origin, sex, sexual identity, gender discrimination, familial, marital status, and all these bases, including perception thereof. And now employees can take family care leave if they must. They cannot be discriminated if they're pregnant, and they take leave for that. All these bases make it much easier for people to be treated fairly in the workplace.
Looking forward, is there room for improvement? I know that you're not in the legislature, but talk to us generally. Is there room for change?
Really, I think that California's law is so broad that really the federal law, for example, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, is just beginning to catch up. The ADA is just beginning to catch up.
That's the American with Disabilities Act.
American with Disabilities Act. Disability discrimination is very well covered under our law, and we have offered protection to hundreds of thousands of Californians.
Now, if a Californian believes that they have been victimized by discrimination, either employment or housing, what should they do? Should they contact your department? Should they contact a civil lawyer? How should they handle it?
They should contact our department and go on our website at www.dfeh.ca.gov. There they will find all the information necessary to find out about whether or not their rights have been discriminated against under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. There's also, if they have counsel already, they can also go online and get an automatic right to sue letter.
Terrific. Phyllis, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
For Local Edition, I'm Brad Pomerantz.